Welcome all to the course on the Principal Upanishads. This is the introductory session. Here we are going to discuss the course outcomes, the syllabus, that is the Upanishads that we are going to cover, and introduction to the Upanishads. What are Upanishads? So, what are the course outcomes? After completing this course, what skills or what benefit a student will achieve? The first one is remember the names of the principal Upanishads. What are the principal Upanishads of the Indian philosophy and to which Vedas they belong to? Upanishads are also known as the Vedanta. The symbol means we will study this as Vedanta. The second outcome is understand the core concepts that the Upanishads are striving to propagate. That is the concept of Brahma and how to understand these core concepts, how to perceive Brahma, that the student will understand. Apply the concept of the Upanishads to lead a fulfilling life and encourage sustainable living practices. At the end of the course, the student will learn and appreciate that sustainability is an integral part of the Upanishads. Analyze the similarities and differences between teachings of the different Upanishads. So, how the Upanishads, the principal Upanishads, vary with respect to what they propagate. And the chronology of thought. Students, after going through this course, can easily know how the Indian thought has proceeded from the ancient times. Evaluate the impact of the knowledge of the Upanishads on the disciplines of artificial intelligence, complexity, and convergence. These three are the modern disciplines where rapid progress is being made. The listeners and the students will be surprised to know that Upanishads contain the very initiation of the concept of intelligence, complexity, and convergence. And hence, as these disciplines owe a lot to them, the connection is yet to be established. And finally, after completion of this course, the listeners and the students are expected to create a corpus of knowledge which complements the modern science and arts and traces its origin to the Upanishads, and that is currently known in academic circles as Indian knowledge system. So completion of this course will help student understand the value of the Indian knowledge system from the very initiation from the ancient times, because Upanishads are the earliest philosophical thoughts of Indian philosophy. Now, what are the modules that I am going to cover? I will focus on 11 principal Upanishads separated into 5 modules. Now this lesson is lesson 0. I have marked them. Now there will be one lesson on Isa Upanishads, 2 lessons on Kena, and 7 lessons on Kathopanishad. So each module will consist of 10 lessons. Okay. Now in the first module we are covering Isa Upanishads, which is very small yet very powerful. Then Kena Upanishad, an interesting interaction between Brahma and various powers of the universe. Kathopanishad, of the conversation between Jama and Nachiketa. In module 2, we have got Prasna, Mundaka, and Mandukya Upanishad. We will again take 10 lessons for this. The Prasna Upanishad will take 3 lessons. Mundaka will require 6 lessons, 2 for each Mundaka. Mandukya Upanishad is quite small. We'll take only 1 lesson for that. Then in module 3, I will take 10 lessons to cover it. Aitareya is very small. I will take only 1 lesson to cover it. It's a powerful Upanishad describing the origin of the universe. Taittiriya Upanishad with 3 Ballis will take 3 lessons, and 6 chapters of Svetasvatara Upanishad will take 6 classes. The 2 biggest and the earliest Upanishads are the Brihadaranyaka and Chandogya Upanishads. Purposefully, I have kept them to the end. They are quite big. Chandogya Upanishad itself will require 10 lessons. Brihadaranyaka will also require 10 lessons. So in all, we have 50 lessons plus 1 introduction. So we have got 51 lessons. I plan to release these lessons over 50 weeks or about 1 year, so that students get ample time to explore other literature and also focus on the course outcomes. Upanishads are treatises which belong to a group of literature that are the foundations of Indian philosophy and culture. Upanishads were the earliest philosophical thoughts. Now the teaching of the Upanishads were written in very small sutras. In Brahma Sutra, the concept of Brahma was explained, because in those days everything had to be remembered. Now Brahma Sutra is cryptic. We do not know, we cannot understand the Brahma Sutra without the commentaries. Then came Srimad Bhagavad Gita, which is part of the epic Mahabharata. Now Bhagavad Gita, it is the credit to its author Maharishi Vyasadeva that the teachings that were cryptically mentioned in the Brahma Sutra were explained in nice, beautifully written slokas with Vyasadeva's own basic and fundamental additions. Now, these three provide the core of Indian philosophical thoughts, and the further systems like Jainism, Buddhism, and the six systems of Indian philosophy are based on all this. Mahabharata and Ramayana are indirectly related to these philosophies, and these two epics define the Indian society and culture. ଏଗୁଡିକ ହେଉଛନ୍ତି ଭାରତୀୟ ଦର୍ଶନ ଓ ସଭ୍ୟତାର ଆଧାର. Now we will have discussion regarding some information regarding this Upanishads. Importance of the Upanishads. The Upanishads represent a great chapter in the history of human spirit and have dominated Indian philosophy, religion, and life for about 3000 years. The earliest, we can say, occurred around 1000 BC. Every subsequent religious movement has had to show itself to be in accord with their philosophical statements, including Buddhism, Jainism, and the six systems of Indian philosophy. Even doubting and denying spirits found in them anticipations of their hesitances. Upanishads are not dogmatic misgivings, and negations. They have survived many challenges, religious and secular, and helped many generations of men to formulate their views on the chief problems of life and existence. The term Upanishad is derived from Upa, which means near, knee down, and Sad, to sit, that is sitting down near. Groups of pupils sit near the teacher to learn from him the secret doctrine. In the quietude of forest hermitages, the Upanishad thinkers pondered on the problems of deepest concern and communicated their knowledge to the fit pupils near them. The seers adopt certain reticence in communicating the truth. They wish they wish to be satisfied that their pupils are spiritually and not carnally minded. To respond to spiritual teaching, we require spiritual disposition. In Sankara's interpretation, Upanishads are treatises that deal with Brahma knowledge. Number, date, and authorship. Their number exceeds about 200, though the Indian tradition puts it at around 108. The principal Upanishads are said to be 10. Sankara commented on, the great thinker Sankara commented on Adi Sankara. 11 that we are going to discuss throughout this course. Those are Isha, Kena, Katha Upanishad, Prasna, Mundaka, Mandukya, Aitareya, Taittiriya, Svetasatara, and finally the biggest ones, Chandogya and Brihadaranyaka. Ramanuja uses all these Upanishads with a few more. The first English translation of the Principal Upanishad was by the great reformer Raja Ram Mohan Rai in 1832, followed by many scholars in the West like Rohr and Max Mueller. Modern scholars have generally agreed that the ancient prose Upanishads like Aitareya, Chandogya, Kena, Taittiriya, and Brihadaranyaka, together with Isha and Katha Upanishad, belong to the 8th and 7th centuries BC. They are all pre-Buddhistic. They represent Vedanta in its pure original form and are the earliest philosophical compositions of the world. These Upanishads belong to the axial era of the world, 800 to 300 BC, when man for the first time simultaneously and independently in Greece, China and India questioned the traditional pattern of life. Who are the authors? For Upanishads, there are no authors, there are only seers. As almost all the early literature of India was anonymous, we do not know the names of the authors of the Upanishads. Some of the chief doctrines of the Upanishads are associated with the names of renowned sages like Aruni, Jagyavalkya, Balaki, Swetaketu, Sandilya. They were perhaps the early exponents of the doctrines attributed to them. The teachings were developed in parisads or spiritual retreats where teachers and pupils discussed and defined different views. Note it, different views. There was discussion among them, there was no dogma. As part of the Veda, the Upanishads belong to the Shruti or the revealed literature rather than someone creating them. The Upanishads are vehicles more of spiritual illumination than of systematic reflection. They are the utterances of the sages who speak out of their out of the fullness of their illumined experience. They are not reached by ordinary perception, inference, on reflection as we acquire knowledge. So these are not used. Rather, these are seen. These are seen by the seers. The inspired sages proclaim that the knowledge they communicate is not what they discover for themselves. Though the knowledge is an experience of the seer, it is an experience of an independent reality, an objective reality which impinges on his consciousness. Veda, of which Upanishads are part of. The oldest Indo-European literary composition is the Rig Veda. The word Veda from Ved, to know, means knowledge par excellence or sacred wisdom. Science is the knowledge of secondary causes, of the created details. Wisdom is the knowledge of the primary causes, of the uncreated principle. The Veda is not a single literary work like the Bhagavad Gita or a collection of number of books compiled at some particular time as the Tripitaka of the Buddhists. There are four Vedas. The Rig Veda, which is mainly composed of songs of praise. The Yajur Veda, which deals with sacrificial formulas. The Sama Veda, which refers to melodies. And the Atharva Veda of formulas. Vedanta. Each Veda contains four sections consisting of Samhita or collection of hymns and prayers, Brahmanas discussing rites and ceremonies, Aranyakas or forest texts which are partly included in the previous two, and finally the last, Upanishads. The Vedanta meant originally the Upanishads, though the word now is used for the system of philosophy based on the Upanishads. Literally, Vedanta means the end of the Veda, the conclusion as well as the goal of Vedas. Chronologically, they come at the end of the Vedic period. As the Upanishads contain abstruse and difficult discussions of the ultimate philosophical problems, they were taught to pupils at about the end of their course. The learning of the hymns and the performance of the rites are a preparation for true enlightenment. Upanishads and Brahma Sutra. The Brahma Sutra is an aphoristic summary written in very few words of the teaching of the Upanishads. Therefore, they are sutras. And the great teachers of the Vedanta developed their distinctive views through their commentaries on this work. Different commentators attempt to find Upanishads and Brahma Sutra as a single coherent doctrine, a system of thought free from contradictions. Upanishads do not work out a logically coherent system of metaphysics. Instead, they give us a few fundamental doctrines which stated out as the essential teaching of the early Upanishads. They are recapitulated in the Brahma Sutra. Upanishads as tradition. Upanishads do not adopt an attitude of dogmatism. This attitude of acceptance of all forms of worship has been a persistent character of India's religious life. We are heirs of a richer heritage that most of us are not aware of. Loyalty to a particular tradition means not only concord with the past, not only the concord with the past, but also freedom from the past. Tradition is not a rigid hidebound framework which cripples the life of spirit and requires us to revert to a period that is now past and beyond recall. However, tradition is not a memory of the past, but a constant abiding of the living spirit. It is a living stream of spiritual life, which are part of which the Upanishads so truly represent. As I will discuss shortly, most of the English interpretation is from Professor Radhakrishnan's The Principal Upanishads. So my references are slokas. The Upanishadic slokas are always easily read if they are written in an Indian script. So I have used Odia script for writing the slokas, and the Odia meanings any Indian language would have done. So Odia script and Odia meaning has been from Professor Chittaranjan Das's Upanishad Sabdartha or Vistruta Alochana. Okay. Next, the English meaning and various explanations, including the ones that I have given in this lesson itself, are from the Principal Upanishads by Professor Radhakrishnan. It is a huge book, and I suggest the students keep one copy with them for reference. I have not found any errors in this book. It's so enlightening. Then the previous two books suffice and they cover 90% of my reference, but still some ideas I have taken from Professor Radhakrishnan's the Bhagavad Gita and the Upanishads that are published by the Dharmagantha store for additional meaning and interpretation. At the end, I will try to describe the logo that I am using. The logo says, as I have already discussed, the foundations of Indian philosophy, the Upanishads, the Brahma Sutra, and Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Now, the foundations of Indian society are Mahabharata and Ramayana. And below I have written one sutra from the Brahma Sutra, which is Atmakrute Parinamat. It simply means it summarizes the teaching of the Upanishads. Brahma is the material cause of the world because it created itself by undergoing modification. Brahma Sutra 1:426. So this is here, and you are going to find this logo for all the lessons. Okay. Thank you all. We'll start with the Isa Upanishad in the next class as part of lesson 1. Thank you for listening.